I accidentally went viral in 2020. These guys were like creating their own style of music on their own. I had the most upbeat idea for a song at a funeral. People started thinking I wrote the song. You know, they were getting mad at ex-ambassadors.
How has collaboration kind of like affected how you write your music?
She had just gotten out of the hospital like the day before for attempting suicide, and how much of an impact the music that she had heard that night had on her.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Studio One. I am here with a guy who I've been following for a little bit, actually. I don't know, Trey, if you know this, but you've kind of been on my radar for maybe a year. I've been like, I saw some of your stuff. So, everybody, this is Tre Mutava. Did I say that right?
That's right. You got it.
Sick. Perfect. So, Trey, welcome to Studio One. So glad to have you here, man.
Man, thank you so much for the opportunity. This is great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Perfect. So, I just want to jump right into it. Just a couple of intro stuff. I saw you grew up in Georgia, correct?
Yeah, I spent a few years after I was born there. I spent most of my life here in Kansas City, actually. I left Georgia, the Marietta, Atlanta, Kennesaw County area when I was like 5 or 6.
Gotcha. So do you remember much of the like hearing music in that area, or you kind of just like in Kansas City, you got thrown into the atmosphere and the scene of that?
I think the little bits of inspiration that I have from that time in Atlanta was more of the gospel scene. My mom was always putting on just some of your gospel hits, you know, your Kirk Franklins and Fred Hammond, CeCe Wine. Like I grew up on all that, but I was also introduced really early on to just like contemporary Christian like radio music, and so a lot of that stuff was heavy in my like put on me early on, and that transformed into me listening to just more pop. And I loved like some of the hip hop stuff, especially, I mean, that East Coast type hip hop, you know, because I was more on that Eastern side as a kid. But coming into KC, I kept a hold of those roots on the Christian side, you know, especially because we grew up in church and gospel music. We went to a church that did kind of gospel and contemporary Christian music. So those things all fused together as I was growing up.
That's so sick. So you like, I feel like worship music and like that has kind of infused you. And I saw on your Instagram that you are part of like a worship team. And we were just talking before, you still are part of that. Like, how has that like affected how you write and like how you see the music industry and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you know, I think that the music industry, at least the people that tend to be highlighted the most, there's not always, it's hard for Christian music to be the norm. And I think just recently, like, you've got guys like Forrest Frank and Jake and some of these guys that are making Christian music cool, you know, for the younger generation. And I love that. But I think that, like, for me, like, I was growing up like on Elevation and Hillsong, and to me, those guys were like the cool, like, Christian worship type bands and groups, you know. And so I was influenced in the sense when it came to my writing, like, I definitely wanted to create a style of music that involved my faith, but was applicable to people that didn't have a faith in Jesus Christ and God, and find a way to still be human, be very, very relatable. Because I think that at the end of the day, it all like plays a role in just the humanness that we have as people. Like, you can actually tie your faith into everything that you do as a human. And so I find those parts of my life that believers and non-believers have in common, and I try to write about that stuff.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so cool. I really want to get into that in a little bit, but I want to touch on just something that I saw in your Instagram. You just had pretty running people. I want to know, is that still going? Was that just like a fun passion thing you had?
I'm laughing because this seems to come up, you know, in ways that like are unexpected for me. You know, I just introduced a buddy of mine that I became friends with this guy this year. And we were just kind of going down memory lane. Like, he was showing me old YouTube videos, and I was like, well, you know, I was in this band in high school. And, you know, we were, when I was a freshman, two of my friends, upperclassmen, they were juniors at the time. And so my freshman year was 2016, and we started this band called Pretty Running People. And we did not come up with a name. It was our first performance at the school talent show. First of all, I just need to like get this out of the way because it's so funny to me. we're at the school talent show, and we had put all our effort into preparing for the talent show that we forgot to create a name for ourselves. So when we're backstage and it's our turn to perform, and the announcer goes, "Hey, what's your name, by the way?" And we're just like, "Oh wow!" Like we didn't, like, forgot that's so he goes, "Okay, don't worry, I got you." So he goes out there. All right, this next group's a boy band, and we were not a boy band. We were dudes, and we were singing, but like we weren't a boy band.
Yeah.
And all right, I need an adjective, and I need a noun, I need a verb. He just starts like throwing out opportunity for the audience to name us. And so it was originally Pretty Running Person, and eventually we changed it to Pretty Running People, PRP for short. And we did a couple singles, and I produced our first album. And I actually, and I'm in the works of finding some of those old projects because
Mm.
they were available to the public, and then as I got started on my artistry, I had taken the music down, and I'm like, no, I should actually like keep that stuff up. So I'm hopeful to get that back up and running.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that. That's a cool story though, because like then people are like literally naming you, and you're like, well, this is what we're gonna do.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so sick. One more intro question. What hobbies do you do like outside of music? I saw that you potentially play basketball. Anything
Yeah.
you do?
Yeah, man, I appreciate you doing your homework here. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
dude.
I love shooting hoops. I honestly, one of my favorite things is just conversation. So I book time to just grab lunch with friends, and I talk about life. I talk about faith. I love to pour into people, and I love to be poured into. So I look for opportunities to just fellowship and experience life with friends like that. But I love basketball.
Mm,
There's kind of a pickleball thing going on around here that people are really into. I'm kind of into it.
that's sick.
So that's kind of a thing, I think. But honestly, this is kind of, I feel like this is super like basic, but I actually love just taking walks. Like we got this
Mm,
apartment specifically, like it's just a few feet away from this really incredible trail around my neighborhood, and I love just walking down that trail as far as I can. Some days, now that it's colder, it's a little bit tougher to do that. But I do that. I lift weights,
mm.
and man, I'll catch a good Netflix series or something every now and then too. Like that's pretty normal stuff, I think. But it keeps me grounded every now and then.
Yeah. What's your Netflix series that you're in right now?
Man, I just finished a man, or what's it called? A Man on the Inside. It's
Hmm.
from the creators of The Good Place. It's about a guy. I forget his name, the actor, but the tall older guy with the slick back hair and the glasses. He played the. I think he played like the mediator or whoever in the show The Good Place.
Okay.
He gave the main character Kirsten Bell like all the rules and how the game was working and whatever. And he plays the main character in this show, and basically he gets hired by a um, um, private investigator to live at a retirement community home and help figure out like who's been stealing like expensive things from other elderly people within the community. And it's this very like emotional. It's obviously a comedy because it's from the creators of The Good Place, but
Mm.
it's this very emotional, heartfelt. Um, Story, and it's only 8 episodes, but it feels very complete and very just wholesome. So
Yeah.
I just finished it like yesterday. It's pretty good.
That's sick. That's awesome. Sweet. Well, I want to play a quick game too. We're gonna get into the meat of everything, but a quick game, and you have no idea probably what the game is, and all I did was just explain the photo.
Oh,
So we're gonna see if I can pull this up for you. I should have sent this to you, but I was like, I don't want him to know, so I'm just gonna put it up on the screen on my phone, and we'll see if you can just see it. If you can't see, that's fine. But I took 3 screenshots from your Instagram,
oh man,
and I need to get the story behind it.
oh man,
So here's number one.
oh man. Okay,
Give me the story behind this.
okay. All right. So growing up, like I've had so many different musical influences. One of them, growing up, was Jason Derulo. I was a huge Jason Derulo fan as a kid. Probably all the way from early middle school to like mid high school. I was like obsessed with just his vocal ability and his dance moves, and so
Mm.
I spent time in my living room with back like my childhood living room, like practicing my break dance moves and like see. So that's me in my high school parking lot at an event that we had. I can't remember what the event was, but it's like my freshman year or my sophomore year.
Mm.
That photo actually made the cover of our school yearbook, so that was pretty fun.
Actually, that's so
Yeah.
sick. That's amazing. Let me grab the next one. So this one, I'm gonna zoom just a little bit so you can see it.
Oh, yep, yep.
Give me some deets on this one.
I'm blown away that that's on my Instagram right now. I'm blown away. This is great.
I'm deep diving.
This is so good. Okay, Halloween, obviously, because we're dressed up. That's my brother and I. That's my younger brother Ryan. He is obviously Spider-Man, coolest younger brother in the planet.
Mm,
And I was hanging out with him. I said, "Let's go grab your costume," and I ended up getting myself a costume as well. I think that's like at Party City or something. We just found it here.
that's awesome. And the last one right here.
Oh, yes, that's one of my favorite photos. I think that's actually my profile picture. Like if you add me like on Venmo or something, I still
Mm,
have that on my anyway, yeah, I was at a farmer's market and I was just very like I'm not a big plant guy. But I remember I think somebody bought me that hat for as a gift for a retreat once, and I loved the hat. I was like, man, this is so different than what I would usually wear. So I wore the hat on this journalism camp trip thing, and
mm.
we went to a farmer's market, and I saw that plant. I kept that plant for a long time. I did decently. I kept it alive for a little while, actually. Um, and I was like, "Hey, someone take a photo of me holding this plant." And I don't even remember the context other than that, but I
Yeah.
love that. I love that plant, and I was really proud of that photo. So thanks for finding that one.
Oh yeah, no problem, dude. That was awesome. All right, let's get into some meat of the conversation. So I want to touch base on your music. So that's the music. That's like a huge thing, obviously. And I see like right now in your background, I like recognize your background so much, dude. Like from your Instagram, I'm like, dude, that's the room that I see you collaborate with everybody. And
Yep.
so it's so dope. So the vibe I'm getting from your music is like, and I know I feel like you've just like teased these inside your Instagram stuff like that, but like very John Bellion, very like AJR like feel. Um, like are those guys like huge inspirations to you? Like who are your inspirations as you're creating music? I know you grew up in like more of like the gospel kind of, but like you're infusing like the culture, like the pop culture stuff, like too. Like are
Yeah.
those guys like your huge like inspiration?
I've always had a niche for creating like sounds. I would play these games growing up that involved just adding samples and things like that on your computer until you created like your own loop. They were made for like kids to get into music or whatever. Like I love that stuff. I
Mm,
loved looking at a keyboard and seeing how the notes could be molded into melodies, and all that stuff was very exciting for me. But I never really got a huge grasp on the idea of production until high school when I first heard bands like King's Kaleidoscope, AJR, Panic at the
mhm,
Disco, 21 Pilots, John Bellion. These guys were like creating their own style of music, like on their own. To me, that was huge. I sat there and I thought, hold up, they're not going to major studios, and they're not having someone else do it for them. They're doing it themselves. And to me, that was wild because I grew up in the more traditional. You listen to songs that you hear on the radio. A lot of those guys have they're the artists, but they have producers and they've got
mhm,
engineers and they've got these labels that provide for them all the things that you might need to create a hit record. So as a kid, I was so blown away by bands that did it themselves because I knew that if I was going to break into the industry, I was going to have to do it myself. So,
mm,
we got these MacBooks in high school, and obviously meant for educational purpose, but I'd be the kid in the back of history, like trying to make synthetic violins on GarageBand sound like real violins. And to me, that was like the escape. That was everything. And I love the stories too behind guys like AJR that were genuinely like they started out as street performers as kids, and they just stuck with it, and they would play very small shows and invite people back to shows, and that was inspiring. I love the idea of building on something. Same thing with John Belling. Like he did the underground thing for so long, and but he was creating hit record after hit record, and eventually was getting called up by major labels, and they're like, "Hey, who's your team? Who's doing all this for you?" He's like, "Oh, it's just me." I thought to
mm.
myself, "Well, I can do all that stuff too." So that kind of is what got me started, was just producing on my school MacBook and in high school, and I did the same thing in college, and I crafted my own artistry out of that.
Yeah. So production, like I can definitely tell like production is a huge thing for you. And like it's something that you really, really grab hold of. Like, can you kind of just like walk us through like the process, like
Yeah.
how you kind of produce a song? Like, is it like usually like where you like create the beat and stuff like that? Or is it like melody, you come up with something? Like, how do you kind of walk through that?
Man, that's a great question. I've been trying to figure this out more and more as I do it because, to be honest, for a while I could never answer the question. I just because the beginning portion of the song used to happen so quickly that I wouldn't pay attention to it because I was so focused on what I want to get to. By the time I get there, I'm like, how did I even start? So
Mhm.
lately, I've been trying to pay more attention to how I start, and I realize it's usually not planned. It's usually unexpected. I've had very few moments in which I say, I'm going to write a song, I'm going to produce a song, and then I do it and I like it and I keep it and I release it. So lately, what's been happening, or what's always pretty much always happened, is that I will be living life. I'll be driving, I'll be in the shower, I'll be eating, I'll be talking to somebody. Somebody will say something, or I'll hear something in a movie, and I'm like, whoa, that's a concept that I could relate to or write to. Those are sometimes one of my favorites when it just comes up in conversation or something inspires me. There are moments in which I'll just be like driving and I hear a melody in my brain or
Mm.
a lyrical phrase, and it's usually the main idea of the song. It's usually something that goes and makes me want to write around it
Mhm.
within the chorus. Something involving the chorus, I usually hear it a little bit higher in my head than I actually end up recording it because it just I don't know something about it is just more memorable that way. And I immediately pull out my voice note on my phone. Like my phone is
I was
probably
gonna
got
say, yeah.
it's probably got over 3,000 to 5,000 voice notes on my phone,
Yeah.
and I've gotten better at organizing them in folders. But I'll do everything in my power to capture the overall thought process and feeling that I have when it first hits because it doesn't hit the same after that unless I can
Mhm.
remember it. And I
Mhm.
never remember it unless I record it.
Mhm.
So I have to I don't just sing the lyrics and melodies that come to my mind. I also try to hum the chords that I'm hearing in the back of my head too to back up the lyrics and the melodies. Because that changes everything too. I'll do that
Mhm.
and then I'll beatbox. I'll try to get the backbone of the song or the chorus. Again, these are usually choruses that come to me first. And
Mm.
I'll then take it, I'll sit in the studio and I play along to my voice note. I'll hit play on my phone and I'll start fleshing out chords on the keyboard. And I try to lay down the keys. I try to lay down the drums very quickly. Because if I can lay down a loop of something that makes sense to me in a chorus sense, I can build everything else around that. I've got my verses. I can figure out that. I can figure out my instrumental, my bridge. Everything else can be like done around that. But it's usually like one of those things where I want to get to it sooner than later because that inspiration, that excitement doesn't last long.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, your voice notes are probably, like, crazy, like, I'm like, as you're driving, you're just like, "I just gotta do it." Boom, and then, like, remembering I think that's the biggest thing is, like,
Yep.
remembering when you do the voice note, like, creating that feeling in that voice note because like, a lot of times you'll, like, go back, like, a month later maybe, and you're like, "Oh, this I like this," and it's like,
Yep.
"What exactly was happening in that?"
Yeah.
Like
The worst thing is when I'm in a place in which I got to be quiet. Like I'm sitting down, I'm watching like somebody's play or
Mhm.
recital, or I'm at like a funeral or something. It's like you can't pull. That true story. I had the most upbeat idea for a song at a funeral. It was
Oh,
so bad.
no.
I'm sitting there like I should go to the restroom or something because. And I was sitting with my manager actually. She's sitting right there next to me. And dude, the fun. I'm just sitting there like quietly like humming this idea. And she goes,
No.
are you like recording a song idea right now? I'm like, listen, this is really good. This
She's
is
like,
really good. You gotta
"Trey."
empathize with me here. Yeah, it was one of those moments. Like,
Oh, that did that okay, did that song ever come out?
I ended up writing it. It did not come out. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I might come back to it, but it was a good idea. I'm still I'm still happy with it. As a
Dude.
song idea. So
That's amazing though. That's a great story. If you ever release it, be like, I came up with this at a funeral. It would go viral, and people would be like, "What the heck is it?"
and it makes no sense. It had nothing to do with the funeral. That's the problem. Is that like they don't. It doesn't always correlate with what's happening around me.
Yeah,
Sometimes they just hit from nothing.
yeah, that's amazing.
Go
So
figure.
like, dude, so like, production is huge for you. So like, what kind of sparked your want to like start posting about that on social medias? Because like that's kind of how I found you. Is like I was scrolling and then one of your videos came up that you had someone on. I forget it was like one of your friends was doing a vocal thing. And like you're making the choir, and I was like, dude, this is so cool, and like it inspired me. But I was like, what kind of like gave you like that like idea to be like, oh, I should start putting this out?
I believe that if I was gonna have some sort of attention in the industry, if I was gonna get anyone to listen to my music that doesn't know who I am, I can't just write, release, or write, record, and just release the songs. I have to like promote them. And I thought, well, how am I going to promote songs? I'm not like, I don't want to just like sell myself, like try to make these quirky videos. And
Mm.
nothing against people that make cool, like quirky or funny or goofy videos. But to me, I'm like, I want to like be as authentic to what I'm doing as possible. Like, cause it feels like an ad, and I've done it before, and it just feels so exhausting to try to create like an advertisement.
Mhm.
I thought, wouldn't it be cooler to just show people what I'm doing? And then be like, yeah, by the way, this song is out if you're interested. I accidentally went viral in 2020,
I
showing
love
people.
accidentally.
It really was a complete accident. Here, so the story, real quick, and then I'll kind of finish off like to answer your question.
Hey,
What
yeah,
you know,
you roll with
I
it. Roll with it.
yeah, I watched this guy, a buddy, yeah, one of the most talented musicians I've ever met. Briefly, he moved out to LA. You probably heard of him. His name's Justice West, and he's just an incredible writer,
Mm.
producer, guitarist, and he's got major credits with major artists. He's out in LA, but he's from the same city as me, actually, here in Overland Park. And he had reposted the lead singer of X Ambassadors
Mm.
explaining how they created the choir to their song "Belong." And so this was back when I first got into TikTok, back in 2020, COVID, right before COVID, actually. And was it? Yeah, I think it was right before COVID. And I had watched this guy layer his voice a million times, and it sounded like this massive choir. And my first thought was, oh, that's cool. But I'll be real, I sat there and I thought, I do this all the time. Like, that's so
Mm.
cool. But I'm doing this. Like, I should just like show people that I know how to do this too, because I think it's cool. So I did a little poll on my story. I posted his thing, and I said, should I try this? And people were like, yeah, go for it, go for it. That'd be fun. And I was like, okay, bet. So I was working like some random sales job at the time, and I was living at home, and I was literally recording music in my bedroom. Like, I had like
Mm.
this tiniest space ever to record. And I just 30 minutes, real quick, I laid down, and here's the problem. I copied the exact same, not just format of his video, but I used his song, I used his lyrics, I did the exact same thing as him. I tagged him, and I tagged the band, and I made it very clear that I didn't write the song. But my version went like hecka viral on TikTok, like 4 million streams or views or whatever, a couple million on Instagram. It
Mm.
was getting hits on Twitter. Like, people were like blowing this thing up. And people started thinking I wrote the song. It was super funny. Like, they were getting mad at X Ambassadors. They're like, like it was actually super funny. The NFL's official TikTok account reposted it, or
That's
used
so
the
sick.
audio,
That's so
in one of
sick.
their highlight reel. It was the most random thing I've ever seen. And it was in that moment that I was like, I got to show people how I make things in the studio, because I do
Mm.
this all the time. So problem was, I didn't have any music out at the time as a solo artist, or I had like 2 songs or 3 songs. I
Mm.
was working on my first album, The Movies, and I wanted to just focus on that for a long time. So I finished the album. A few months later, following year 2021, um, I was struggling to get anyone to listen to my music, and struggling to get anyone to watch my videos on TikTok or Instagram. So I made this elaborate, like, how I made the intro to my first song on the album, Pre-K. And I used household items, and these are true things that I did. I just refilmed. I kind of recreated the moment.
Mm.
I filmed myself banging pots and pans and shaking like macaroni and cheese shakers, and sampling like glass dings and things like that.
Mm.
And this also went fairly viral, and that turned into more streams and things like that. So kind of the mentality behind sharing what I do in the studio became a couple things. One, advertisement, and two, just straight like education and like inspiration for other producers and people that are curious on how music is made.
Yeah, dude, that's so sick. And I feel like also another part of like you're doing that for like distributing your music, but like I feel like also you do a lot of collaboration. I kind of want to talk a little bit about collaborations. Like I feel like a lot of your posts that I see have like your friends, like even like it looked like you did something with like a school with like a choir and like violins and all that stuff. I don't know if that was your high school way back where you going back to your high school. Is like all these really cool things of like like you're really collaborating with a lot of people. Like how has collaboration, like you showing what you're doing, but also how has collaboration kind of like affected how you write your music and like how you think of it?
Yeah, I tend to write. as if I have every resource imaginable. Like when I say write, I mean like arrange like the ideas for my song, not write
Mhm.
lyrics, but I tend to arrange my ideas for songs in the production before they're produced. I tend to think about all of that as if I have the world of music at my disposal. Like I could call up the greatest, string players or the best vocalists. Like I imagine that I can do that, even though I can't. I imagine that I could, and I just hope for the best. So I'll create ideas that are a little bit larger than life, a little bit higher than my pay grade, And my hope is that I can involve friends that can help
Mhm.
execute the ideas and make it sound like, whatever it is I'm trying to make it sound like. I found this to be really helpful early on, even in that first band that you mentioned with my buddies in high school, Pretty Running People. And our first album, we did a record called Welcome to Wednesday. And
Mhm.
I recorded a kids choir at a middle school to capture this youthful, like authentic, energetic sound that only kids can really, capture. And it's like I just ask, I love just asking and seeing if people are willing to do that. And I found that as I do it more often, that people are like willing to join in because they hear about the stuff that I did with somebody else. And they're like, oh, cool, yeah, So I like to. I've gotten better at like collaborating in the sense of producing um, quickly because I realized like what does it take for me to help them to help me, like how can I make their job easy, and it's
Mhm.
fun. It makes my job so much more fun because um, I'm not sitting here only doing what I can do because I don't think that I will ever be able to create a Welcome to Wednesday completely on my own, or a Pre-K completely on my own, or any other record that has multiple layers. There's only so much at my disposal here in the studio, and even
Mhm.
if I like become massive and I have all the credit in the world for multiple records, like I'm always going to collaborate because I think that there's always going to be something that other people can like bring to the table that I don't have.
Mm. Yeah. And like going like I feel like just yeah, I feel like just everything is just like and collaboration just infused in your like even live shows like you have such a high production thing, but like you rely on like your band. Like how do you tackle a live show with like everything you have going on? And
Yeah,
like
that's a great
what's that? Yeah.
It's a great question because I'm figuring this out a lot still. We've developed, the band and I've developed a bit more of a rhythm now that we're like, I've always had to like kind of contract different musicians for shows, get a different
Mhm.
drummer for this show, get a different bassist for that show. And I kind of put my foot down earlier this year and I told my manager, like, I really want to have my own band. Even though this is stuff that I'm releasing under my name, like I really want to have a group that knows my music, knows me as an artist, as a musician, and just knows the set list so well that like we can just take this on the road and do it over and over and over and over again. Like I really want to have that kind of tight knit camaraderie and like that ability to do it over and over with them. So when it comes to collaborating for shows, though, um, I have kind of the groundwork, the foundation. They know the songs, they know the chords and the rhythm patterns and all the major parts of the song. And now that we've done enough shows, I'm going, hey man, you play guitar, but you also sing. I know you've only played guitar, but let's start adding some harmony here. My bassist, it's like, can you sing here? Or I'll have my trumpet player, I'll have him like run the sample pad for a segment of the show because
Mhm.
it's fun and he only plays trumpet throughout the rest of the show. So my hope is to like truly have fun, and these guys do that because they're just fun people in general and they're creative, and I'm realizing more as I do this that my ideas are not the only good ideas. Like I
Mhm.
really need to involve as many great ideas as just ultimately
Mhm.
suits the vision. So, and I think they
Yeah.
do that really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I kind of want to touch a little bit on touring. I feel like you've had a decent amount of shows recently. Um, like how has that like been as you were starting to like you've released 2 albums, um, and like as you're starting to play for people, like how has your experience been like get up on stage and like putting your music out there?
Um, it's like it feels like actually playing the game. You
Mhm.
know, like you got, I don't know. I almost think of like Olympic athletes. They spend 4 years training, and then they finally get on stage and they perform.
Mhm.
They actually have the event. And I feel like, don't get me wrong, releasing the music, creating the music, and listening to it that is so rewarding and that is so cool. It's amazing getting messages from fans saying how something impacted them. But there's something about a live performance and seeing people show up, seeing people interact, sing the songs, move along with the lyrics, all that stuff. Like seeing it in real life, that's something else. That's like that to me almost feels like the arrival point as an artist. Like, okay,
Mhm,
now you're doing the artist thing.
mhm,
So whenever I like get to that point, I get really excited. So I put a lot of effort into my live shows because it feels like the point of the artistry
mhm,
almost. I know there's
mhm,
millions of other amazing parts of it, and that there's other ways to impact and to just create like a legacy and be memorable. But the live show to me is one of the most inspiring and exciting things. Watching, I've seen AJR live 3 times now as a
mm,
fan, and each time I'm like motivated to be more and to do more as an artist and excited to create in new ways. And I imagine that people, when they come and see a Tre Mutava show, that there's some sort of excitement or reward that comes out of that. And so my hope is to, be human in real life because there's only so much that you can experience digitally from
mhm,
somebody. So my hope is to like interact with people in real life in a way that's memorable and just ultimately positive.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, what with live shows, like, what is your favorite part of that? And then do you have, like, a story that is like, "This was a highlight for me so far?"
Man, I'll kind of cluster some of the stories
Yeah,
into one overall story. Actually, no, I do have a favorite story that's come to my mind in this moment. I think they change it often, but this one's coming to my mind in this moment. But I'll go back to the favorite part thing real
yeah.
quick. I think my favorite part is like the conversations that I get to have with some of the fans after a show,
Mhm.
and just experiencing like hearing about how someone may have come from a 4 or 5 hour drive or something to come see a show,
Yeah.
or how they've been a fan for I don't know a year or 2 years and they finally got to see the show. Like that to me is like it just makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Mm,
Like I'm like the purpose is being fulfilled and that there's a reason to keep doing what I do because there's a lot of moments where I'm like, man, is this really like working? Am I actually like making a difference? Am I actually like,
mm,
is this important? And so that kind of ties into my one of my favorite stories. I played this bar in Lawrence, Kansas, a year or two ago, maybe, probably a couple years, and yeah, and it was just one of the worst, like, experiences because we were
oof,
having all these tech issues, and there was no one in the room, which also made it, like, good, but you know what I mean? Because they don't have to experience all the tech but it was just
yeah,
so, like, "Dang it, like, here we are, and it's not working?" And I knew that there was all this hard work leading up to the show, and it was just really tough. But I remember I'll never forget this. After the show, there was a woman there that was there. I mean, there's probably like 5 people throughout the entire show. It was pretty tough.
mm,
And there's this woman there that approached me after the show, and she highlighted how she had just gotten out of the hospital like the day before for attempting suicide,
oof,
and how much of an impact the music that she had heard
mm,
that night had on her. She wasn't coming for the show. She wasn't expecting to hear what she had heard. She didn't know who I was. I didn't know who she was. But there was like this hope that she kind of just explained that she had. Like she was like, "Man, um, I can't remember exactly what she said, but I remember this like realization that she had that like everything was okay and that she had like
mm,
a reason to keep going um and that was a night that was very important to her and that became a very important night for me. It made me realize like I don't have to play like sold out venues or um have audio things go well all the time. Like this stuff cannot work and the purpose can still be fulfilled and that people can still be impacted and reached, and that really changed me as an artist in the best way that night.
mm. That's so cool. I mean, that's yeah, that's I feel like for a lot of artists and a lot of people, like, that's what you wanna hear, but, like, it also is just, like, so cool that your music can, like, touch somebody like that in a way that they maybe weren't even expecting. They're just like, "I'm just here to be here," and you have that moment to kinda just, like, speak to them in that. That's so cool.
It was so rewarding for sure, and it just made me realize too, like this is bigger than me, and
Mhm,
that the things that I think are important in this industry and this artistry are not that important, and that I just need to show up and just let my let my character come out in the music, and ultimately let God like speak through the words that I sing, because I think that ultimately like you can't go wrong as an
Mm.
artist doing that.
Yeah. That's so great. That's so great. I know we're getting close to our time, so I want to just do one more question, man.
Sure.
It's been so fun having you on. But you have released 2 albums in 2021 and 2023. So, I think we're on track for another album potentially.
That's a great. That's
is
a great
is
segue.
there another album coming out in 2025?
I made a very strong point. This is hilarious. I made a very strong point to my manager. We want to work really hard to create kind of a, how do I say this? We want to work hard to create a narrative behind my artistry that fans can really lock into. That also is self-sustaining. We've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the past 4 years now, and now we're working with some other people and getting the
Mm,
opportunity to like really expand and grow, and that's awesome. But it's gonna take some more time. And so I have major aspirations for another major project.
mm.
But I told myself I will not be putting it out in 2025 because of how big it is.
Okay.
But
Okay.
a month or so ago, I took a long, like month-long sabbatical. I said no more social media.
Mm,
I was fasting. I was waking up early, going to the gym. I was praying like hardcore day and night. And I came back to social media this month of November, and I realized I just want to create something and allow the fans in on the process like wholeheartedly. Like I want to like, and I don't want to like. I usually like I put a lot of like extra stress on themes and plots and stories when it comes to my projects, especially the movies. You can really see it's like almost like a musical, right?
mm.
The reality, same deal. But I said I want to create something a little bit more undisciplined, but still very intentional. So with that being said, I'm working on a mixtape for next year.
Dude, that is sick. That's so
Something
great.
something to just give people like a real like I want to create something that's not obviously like label backed. I want to create
Mm,
something that is very independent artist, very raw, but very professional, very obviously like intentional. That is like, and I want to write about things that hit me in the moment, things that I'm
mm,
currently, and not try to create like something that's so polished and because I think that that's something that I've always worked hard and stressed on my last 2 projects.
mm.
This is something that I want to be a little bit just a little have a little bit more fun. Not that I didn't
Yeah,
have fun before, but something that's obviously like I want it to sound like I had fun as I produce every song. So
dude.
that's something that I have a lot of expectation for next year.
That's so exciting. Is there a kind of a time frame people can expect it like later in the year, or you're just like, hey, it's coming next year?
I will leave that up in the air for this interview,
Okay,
but I do know that that is something that I'll be having available to everybody in 2025.
dude. I mean, I'm already excited. I can't wait for you to come over and I would love to get one of your shows at some point, dude.
That'd be
But
amazing.
it has been so much fun having you on. Just quick, one more thing. If people want to keep up to date with you, where can they go? What socials? What can they do to kind of like stay up
Sure.
to date?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on all social media platforms, like major, like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You can even find me on Snap under the same username. Facebook. That is Mutava Music. That's Mutavamusic.
Mhm.
Music, Mutava Music, or you can look me up, Tre Mutava. That's Tre. Last name Mutava, Mutava. That's on all streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Pandora, SoundCloud. You can find me YouTube, whatever's convenient. I like to make myself as available to everybody as possible. You can Google me, find me, and I also like to respond to DMs and things like that too. If you guys have questions about what I do, so
Yeah. Dude, I appreciate you responding to me. I was so surprised that you responded to me on Instagram when I messaged you. I was like, I'm just gonna shoot it out to him, see what he says. I know, guys, it's legit. He will respond to you.
I
But
try. Yeah.
yeah, no, great. Trey, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you just spending this time with me, and I can't wait to see what else you have in store for this next year. So I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate this. This is amazing.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching Studio One. Make sure you check out all the other interviews we have, and we'll catch you on the next one.